Welcome live into Homefield Advantage, sponsored by Jake Major with the Bullock Agency of Wyoming and Bear Lake Memorial Hospital. Anthony Colasuno alongside Aaron Poling. We excuse Elon Olive. He is on the way to Ogden to do rodeo.
Yeah, we're participating in the Icebreaker Rodeo, which is one of the bigger. I'm not sure about the biggest, but I know it's one of the bigger rodeos that I've ever heard or witnessed. It seems like almost every single state. That's not entirely true, but I think it's close to 17 states are going to be at that rodeo. So it's one of the biggest rodeos I've ever seen. But, I mean, granted, I haven't seen a ton of rodeos in my day, when that saying is, this ain't my first rodeo. I could say that, but it's only like my third or fourth. So
And plus different countries like Canada.
Absolutely, yeah. So
as well.
It is going to be a huge rodeo. Yeah. So check that out tomorrow on mylocalrodeo.com, as well as My Local Radio will have a link to the live footage of the Icebreaker Rodeo on our websites.
Absolutely. And, of course, a big week and another big sports week coming up. But first, we'll dive into indoor track.
Well, let's run down the show first.
Yeah,
so we're going to start. We are going to start with indoor track, as this is mostly an excuse to try to get my phone to load a little bit quicker. But, indoor track, and then we both had massive tournaments the last weekend. Elon had another massive tournament. We'll talk about those in our second segment. And then our third segment, we'll preview what's coming up this weekend because we both have a couple of pretty big weekends coming up between the two of us.
Yeah, the Bridger Valley, both the Lady Buffaloes and the Lady Eagles made state. For Aaron, he'll be covering the Evanston Red Devils and also the Jackson Bronx.
That is correct.
For our guy, Jake Nichols, who is going to be also at the rodeo as well. Aaron, if you have those track results pulled up, we can see what the Bridger Valley and Evanston did at the meet.
So in the boys 55-meter dash in the 3A, Gabe Hutchinson wins with a time of 6.68 as he is the fastest 55-meter runner in all of 3A indoor track. Congratulations to Gabe Hutchinson on bringing the title home. Moving along to... Sorry, that's the prelims real quick. We got to find the next. Moving along to the 200-meter dash, Gabe Hutchinson takes third. Aiden Hartzell out of Evanston takes seventh, excuse me.
Those are some fast times, though, still. I cannot run that fast ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And the success continues for Hutchinson, who takes third in the boys 400-meter dash. Aiden Hartzell takes sixth. Jaden Riker taking seventh. A couple of Evanston Red Devils pretty successful there. Cole Brown finishes 24th in the prelim. Let's go ahead and move along to the 800-meter dash, where Gideon Stahl out of Evanston takes seventh. Jamar McDowell takes 11th. Aiden Conrad takes 15th. Jameson Williams takes 21st, as those are some of your 3A results from the indoor track. The 1,600-meter race, Gideon Stahl takes 8th. Jamar McDowell takes 12th, which this is the 2-mile race. Not a ton of fun, but for these runners that are able to get through it, in my opinion, running 2 miles right now is not a ton of fun. Yeah. Maybe these kids have a little bit better of a time of it because they're in shape.
I think these kids are also in better shape than we
me.
are.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Brian Baxter, Jameson Williams. I also ran the 1,600 in track, and it's a grind, that's for sure. But congratulations to all these athletes who went out at the state meet and put on a great show for the Evanston Red Devils. As I'm trying to find quickly some results, got Mountain View in the 3,200-meter run. Isaac Timms finishes 15th. Let's continue to search for a couple more results.
As Aaron searches, Evanston's just one of those programs that's always up there in track. They had so many placers in the top 10 and, of course, state champions as well, that Evanston's really a powerhouse in 3A track.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the indoor track season, the outdoor track season's right around the corner. Technically right around the corner. We don't know, basically, due to weather, how long they'll have to wait to start their season. But, just for being able to get the year in for indoor track, because you never know with outdoor track how long it's going to take to get that season going. But I wonder how many of these athletes are going to cross over and run track from basically go from indoor to outdoor and what the differences are.
Yeah, and we see multiple athletes cross different sports, and also just the training that goes into indoor track season because it's cold out here in Wyoming. So in the winter, you're probably not going to run much. Yeah, breaking news, of course. But you probably don't want to run much outside in the winter. So you're looking at indoor gyms. You're looking at basically anywhere that has a good distance-wise of just running that track over and over and over again, or indoor gym, and just the, preparation these kids put in, the breathing. I bet there's special breathing techniques, good running posture. One wrong move and you could lose milliseconds, maybe even a minute off your time.
Yeah, it's one of those sports where you say a millisecond in, the 55-meter dash is almost like a second to, someone who's running maybe in like the 3200. It is, the times are so on top of each other and so quick that, that, like you said, that one false step or that one bad breath that, cost you a millisecond could cost you the difference. But for the Evanston Red Devils, Gabe Hutchinson came out and he had himself quite the day with a first-place finish and a few third-place finishes, as that's a great showing there from Gabe Hutchinson.
We've been seeing a lot of great showings lately from Evanston Athletics anyway, swim and diving. Dive champion here in Evanston. Brady Roberts won the wrestling title at the 175 weight class, I believe. So many state champions right now in Evanston. That is insane. It's just a really good time for Evanston sports.
Yeah, they've had a really good year. When you include all the sports, going all the way back to in the fall with football making a run to the state semifinals matchup, which is something they haven't done in quite a while. And some of that success has really carried over. Gabe Hutchinson was part of that football team. And you got to think that some of that confidence they built there has really carried over into their other sports. As, here in track, he dominates, takes home a championship, and takes home a couple of third-place finishes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, of course, Evanston this weekend has a huge tournament as well. And now let's kind of flip side into our basketball section of this. But we're going to go to that after the break. This is Homefield Advantage, presented by Jake Major with Bullock Agency of Wyoming and Bear Lake Memorial Hospital.
Life is better in the country. KNYN. Fort Bridger, Evanston, Woodruff. 99.1. The country you want to be in.
Hey there, I'm Jake Major, your local Medicare and insurance benefits advisor for the Bullock Agency of Wyoming. With over 25 years of experience protecting families in rural America, we understand the importance of having an affordable insurance coverage. Whether you're searching for extra coverage or looking to understand and switch your Medicare options, I can help you find a range of top-rated insurance companies and tailor-made packages based on your needs. Call me, Jake Major, today at 307-209-4685 and let's discuss your insurance options. We're the Bullock Agency of Wyoming when benefits matter.
When you have an emergency, choose Bear Lake Memorial Hospital. Open 24/7, the professional emergency room staff is trained for trauma, medical, cardiac, pediatric, orthopedic, and obstetric emergencies. Bear Lake Memorial is a critical access level 3 trauma center, offering immediate access to radiology, lab services, surgery, and internal medicine consults. The ER teams are well-trained professionals who are ready to act. When you have an emergency, Bear Lake Memorial Hospital, the most caring hospital on earth.
Out here, we've always worked remote. Out here, stress usually refers to the pull on a rope. Where a stroll in the city is also a stroll in the great outdoors. Where work is a way of life, and life is good. Out here, the backyards are big, and the deals, they're even bigger. This is southwestern Wyoming, and it's where you can get the biggest deals on a vehicle you want with plenty of hometown hospitality. Heritage Auto, your hometown dealer with the biggest deals.
Life is better.
Welcome back live into Homefield Advantage, presented by Jake Major with the Bullock Agency of Wyoming and Bear Lake Memorial Hospital. Anthony Colasino alongside Aaron Poling. Elon Olive is on his way to a rodeo right now, so he is excused for today's episode. And, of course, Aaron, it is state tournament a week. Well, first, let's recap the Rich Rebels, who were at state last week.
Yeah, so the Rich Rebels go down. Their boys finish a runner-up. They lost in the state championship game to the Panguitch Bobcats. And the girls finish in third place, losing to the Panguitch Bobcats in the semifinals, but beating Monument Valley in the fourth place game, which, you know, they both had ideas of going down, winning a state title, but it's just one of those things where it kind of happened where, you know, I don't want to say this in like a mean way, but basically the state championship game on the girls' side was probably between Rich and Panguitch for all intents and purposes, as Panguitch was pretty easily the better team against Tabiona in the day 4 of the tournament. But I mean, you go to overtime against the eventual state champs, you lose in the semifinals. It stings, but the way they played, there's nothing to hang your hat on. I mean, they played hard. They gave all the effort they could. It's just the difference in the semifinals game and the girls game between the boy and the girls, between Rich and Panguitch, was the Rebels went 1 for 8 from the free throw line in regulation. And that's really all it came down to, which it stings to, you know, make it so simplistic that that's why we didn't go to the state championship game. But it's kind of the truth. If they make one more free throw, go 2 for 8, then they have a 1-point lead at the end of regulation.
It's just one of those situations where the fundamentals, that's the main thing. You know, growing up playing basketball, my coach would say, what's the most important shot in basketball? Free throws.
Yeah.
You know? And it's one of those things where, it's, you know, but also you lose to the potential, you know, to the eventual state champion. That's nothing to hang your head low on. You hang your head high. You look at it and say, hey, we gave it our best shot.
Yeah, and it's real easy for us to say here in our studio, or me in my broadcast booth, that, you know, they're free throws, free for a reason, you have to make them. But they are the most high-pressured free throws, especially when I think 4 of them came from freshmen in a state semifinals game. And they're not the easy ones to make when there's a lot of pressure on the line. It's a third game in 3 days. Your legs are tired. And, you know, it's not as easy as we make it sound to be, but that's kind of the difference in the game. But a fun story that I like to tell from that state semifinals matchup is Mallory Henry and Haiti Pugmire. They're letting them play, so much so that each team lost their leading scorers, actually, for probably 2-3 minutes of this game, because they both had pretty big gashes over their eyes. I almost just see Haiti Pugmire. I've seen her running off the floor, clutching her face a ton of times this year. She's a player that was never afraid to stick her nose into the thick of things, and sometimes you get bopped a few times. Well, her and Mallory Henry, they collided heads on a drive to the hoop, and after the whistle blew, you could see Haiti Pugmire is just down the floor, just running right to the locker room. Mallory Henry took off to her locker room. And talking to Haiti, I guess that they had one trainer down there, and her and Mallory Henry were laying in the same room, bleeding on opposite sides of their faces. And it's funny because they came back in at the same time, too, where I don't know if they even checked in with their coaches. I think they both just ran right to the scorer's table and wanted to get back to it.
Yeah.
But they're out there on the floor with matching, like, bandages over their eyes, and it's one of my favorite scenes from the state tournament. It just shows how much that those games meant to those players.
Absolutely. And you know, when you say they're leading scorers and just team leaders, and it wasn't like they went to the bench and said, hey coach, I'm ready to go back in, and coach is like, are you sure? Right?
Yeah, they just went right to the scorer's
table. And I don't know if that was just maybe talked about before, or word got some while the trainer was working with them.
I'm going to go ahead and venture no, because I don't think there was a single chance that anyone saw them before they just got back out on the floor. Because the way the Sevier Valley Center is set up is you run underneath. That's where all the locker rooms are, underneath the bleachers. And they both ran under their tunnel, and they had to swoop around to get to the trainer's room, which was in the middle. So my guess is they both just came back to their benches and just went right to the scorer's table and checked in. Not that either coach would have an issue with it, just because you already have two of your top players in the game that have both been off the floor for a while.
Man, that's insane. Just shows the heart and effort, and it's playoffs. We see injuries, we see a lot of things that we don't see. You know, the mental awareness, the mental toughness of these type of situations, and those two players right there, they showed that. Hey, we're tough as nails, and we'll keep on going.
Yeah, and they came back, and I thought they both played pretty well all things considered. I mean, Haiti Pugmire came back in the next day, and she stuck her fish right back into the thick of things against Monument Valley, going after offensive rebounds. And it's almost like her face is an elbow magnet, as she took a ton of shots to the head this year. But, I mean, I don't know if she'd have it any other way. That's just the effort that you get from Haiti Pugmire. That's just the effort you get from all the Rich Rebels girls this year. That none of the things that happened to them in this game were effort related. It's just one of those things where it just wasn't in the cards. It stinks, you know. Panguitch maybe executed just a little bit better down the stretch in overtime than we did, and that's just how the game ended up. But, I mean, like you said, nothing to hang your head about. It was a really good year. You won 20-plus games. Not a lot of teams do that, and usually only really good basketball teams do that, and the Rebels were one of them.
And you can say that on the high school and college level, that if you have over a 20-win season, you're doing something right. And that's with coaches and players, and now they can look forward to next season and be like, all right, let's get back to the books. Let's get back to that court and try to replicate that performance or do even better.
Yeah, 21-5 is what the Rebels' eventual record would finish. But that senior class is a pretty successful senior class. If you think back to last year, they won the volleyball title with the help of a couple of seniors from that class, made it to the state semifinals last year in basketball. This year, they go to the state championship game in volleyball, go to the semifinals in, you know, basketball. The senior class has been terrific. They've been a lot of fun to get to know. They are a lot of really, really good kids who I am fairly certain they're going to do a lot of really good things in the world, including, you know, they still have track season coming up, and Violet Taylor already holds the record for 1A 100-meter race. Kind of curious to see if she can break it again.
Do you think she will break it again? Yeah.
Probably. I mean, last year after the track season, it was literally the next day after state track. She was in the school working out, so I wouldn't be all that shocked. And then, of course, to go down the lines, you're going to lose quite a few seniors from this group. But what I like for the Rebels is this year they were able to get a lot of underclassmen on the floor, so that way they're going to be relied on heavily in the next couple of years. But they were able to get some mentorship and guidance under a really good senior class.
And I kind of compare that to the Lyman Eagles boys basketball team. They only had 2 seniors this year, but so many of the underclassmen got major minutes that I've talked to Eagles fans, and they're like, you know what? Even though the season was a struggle, granted for Rich, it wasn't a struggle. It was pure dominance, but you get those underclassmen good minutes and good timing. That's going to translate to seasons down the line. That's going to translate to next year.
And one final note about the girls' team before we head to the boys' team. They lost twice in the year 2024. One, North Summit, who were the state runners-up in the 2A, and you took them to 2 points on their home floor without 2 of your best players. And then their only other loss in the year was to Panguitch, who won the thing. So, I mean, you tip your cap to those 2 teams. It's a bummer that you lost the final one, but it is what it is. The girls seem like they handled it well, and they handled it with class and dignity, and they came out and they played in that 3rd and 4th place game, which I think would be super hard to do, but they came out, played really hard, got the win. Now let's move over to the boys' side, who, of course, lost to Panguitch as well, which I'm sure people in Rich are sick of hearing about the Bobcats, as you know. I talk, I always make the jokes with them, like, it's always between us two, isn't it? Because it's kind of come down in all of my years here that it always seems that Rich and Panguitch play each other. They played each other last year in the state tournament. They played each other in the volleyball state tournament the last 2 years. It's just, they're going to collide somewhere, and it's always going to be a lot of fun. And the championship game for the boys, they ended up losing, but to get to where they were from the start of the year, they were 1-3 to start the year. They went on a crazy run here in the second half of the year to make it to the state tournament. Obviously, a lot of this coincides with getting Jaden Desch back and becoming a full team. But, heck of a run. Unfortunately, it just wasn't in the cards. I think a lot of it, if they could go back and look at it again, I think the layups, there's a lot of layups that they left on the table that I know they can make and they know they can make. But once again, you get down to the 4th day of the tournament, 4 games, 4 days, those legs get real heavy, and Panguitch didn't shoot the ball all that greatly either. It's just one of those things where it got away from them a little bit. They fought back, made it a close game in the end, but it was just a little bit too much to overcome against a really, really good Panguitch team.
And, yeah, Panguitch and really good team this year. But you mentioned that third, fourth day, legs get heavy, and everything else, fatigue becomes a huge factor. And even if you tell your team to sleep right and all that stuff, and they do it, it's just playing so many games in that little bit of a span.
Yeah.
It can affect the performance on the court so much, and that's why I think some people don't understand about.
Yeah, and I don't want this to make it sound like me saying Panguitch only won the state tournaments because they get to sleep in their own beds. They are a very talented team, very deep team, both on the boys and girls side. But man, it is such an advantage to go home to your own bed versus staying in a hotel. But I mean, that's just all kind of. I think everyone in Rich knows that signing up, that we are at a little bit of a disadvantage having to travel down, go to a hotel, but you got to overcome it. I mean, it's for a state championship, and these kids, I don't think these kids would put any of the loss on staying in a hotel. I think that these kids understand that, hey, you played a great season, you played a great game. It does sting that you didn't come out on top in the end, but heck of a year. I mean, you can't. It's going to be real easy to be upset that you didn't win the state title, but just knowing that that you did lose a state title, but you lost it to a really good team in what was a pretty good game, I think that's a little more comforting than getting blown out by 20 in the championship game.
Yeah, and also I think these kids would take those hotel stays and those memories they create with their teammates. They're going to be lifelong friends after they graduate high school. They will take those memories and they'll look back on it and say, man, you remember that state title? That state title run we're on, or you remember that memory in the hotel? Nothing for the Rebels to hang low on and be like, man, I wish I was in our own beds and then we probably would have won. No.
I have a memory from the state tournament, and it's a right-handed drive from Jaden Dash down the baseline where he jammed it home in one of the nastier dunks I've ever seen. Especially, this is probably the nastiest dunk I've seen in person. There were a couple of really good ones, but this one from Desh, he just catches baseline. And, Rebels this was in the semifinals game against Paiute, and they were up like 10 plus. So I was thinking maybe he'll give it a go trying to dunk it. And he just, off 1 foot, 2 hands, glides, and he got to do a little hang on the rim because there's people underneath him. That's always the thing when you dunk, is you kind of hope there are. I don't want to say hope there are people underneath you, but maybe in the vicinity so that you can hang on the rim a bit. But there were 2 people right underneath him, and he got to hang up there for a second to really emphasize it. It was, coming from the baseline and dunking. I've never seen a high school kid do that in person. But man, he got up there and he put it home with authority. And I think that really put an exclamation point on that semifinals game with Paiute. I mean, part of the reason I think in high school that you have kids try to dunk who, they can dunk, but they're not going to dunk it every time, is it's such an exclamation point, such a momentum boost that I think if you're up 10 like that, I want my kid to go for the dunk every single time, just because you could feel the shift in momentum, the entire, Rich Rebel bench and the Rich Rebel faithful just going absolutely wild. And at the same time, on the other side, it's like, whoa, what just happened? And it feels like all the momentum's against you now after only a 2-point basket. And that's why I think high school kids, if you get the opportunity to and you're in a good spot in the game, dunk. If you can dunk it, because it is such a momentum boost for your team.
Even if it's just a simple one-hand slam. The crowd pops to that.
Oh, every time.
Every time, because high school dunks are not common.
Yeah, this isn't the NBA where, you're going to see 20 dunks a game. No, these kids, they can dunk, but they've had to really work at it to be able to get to the point where they are in dunk. So every time you see one, I get out of my seat in high school basketball.
Man, I love seeing a good high school basketball dunk. I saw a couple of regionals, and basic 2-handers, basic 1-hander, crowd pops, and it just fills the atmosphere with even more momentum for that team. The bench is celebrating. They're doing like the hand on the head, like
the shot clock violation.
Yeah, like what the refs will do is a shot clock violation signal, but they're doing it as like on top or whatever that signal means. But I just love seeing those type of plays. We're gonna go to break once again, and afterwards we will preview the state tournament this week for the 3A girls and the 4A boys.
If you've never heard a mechanic say they truly care, then you've been at the wrong place. Stacy's Repair in Woodruff is a family-owned and operated business open since 1992. Offering all types of maintenance and repair services, you can be sure your vehicle is operating at its best. Whether your vehicle is older or the newest model, gas or diesel, we fix and maintain them all. Also offering chip repair, windshield replacement, and tires. When your vehicle needs a mechanic, bring it to the ones who truly care. Stacy's Repair in Woodruff.
Founded in 1938 with hopes and dreams of serving the Bridger Valley, Benedict Trading Company was started. Now 85 years and 3 generations later, Benedict's Ace is still serving the Bridger Valley. At Benedict's Ace, you'll find all your home improvement needs. If you're wanting to update the color of your walls, they have all the supplies you need. Changing or fixing your faucet or needing to change out a light fixture can be done with ease. Time to add a backyard paradise? Stop in at Benedict's Ace for all your barbecue, patio furniture, lawn maintenance, and gardening needs. Stop in and visit their friendly staff at 1080 North Highway 414 in Mountain View.
At Reese Auto Service in Lyman, you will find highly skilled mechanics who will get the job done right the first time. They work on anything from light line jobs of tire alignments, suspension work, and oil changes to heavy line jobs of engine replacement, differentials, and all powertrain components. Make sure all your recreational vehicles are working at top speed by getting them checked at Reese Auto Service in Lyman so your time having fun doesn't end early. Reese Auto Service, 541 State Highway 413, Lyman.
When it comes to professional propane service, you can always count on the team at T7 Propane in Woodruff. With a focus on safety, quality product, and excellent service for each customer, you'll always call T7 first. When you work with the professionals at T7 Propane, you're working with the best. For all your propane needs, call T7 Propane in Woodruff, Utah, 435-793-4208.
Welcome back inside the My Local Radio student section. Apologies as we had a little bit of feedback coming from our sound booth, but we got it fixed now as this is the My Local Radio Sports Network Homefield Advantage as student section would be tomorrow. It's kind of a combination of all three though, just because we will not have shows for you tomorrow or Thursday as we'll be traveling and calling state basketball tournaments. We want to thank Les Schwab Plains Tires as well as Union for being a part of our broadcast as we have to recap some Bridger Valley basketball in the regional tournament.
Yes.
For that, we turn it over to Anthony Colasuno. Anthony, tell me what happened with the Bridger Valley at regionals.
Yeah, we'll start with the boys' side. So the Lyman Eagles fought very valiantly, but a young roster this year for them. A first-round loss to Powell, and then they were in an elimination game versus Lander Valley. Made it close at the end, really close, but ended up losing there. And then Mountain View boys, they were down 19 at half to Level. Brought the lead back, brought the deficit down to 7 in the fourth quarter. Just was red hot from three-point land. Ended up losing that game by about 10, but when you're down 19 and a half and you could break it to under 10 in the fourth quarter, that speaks volumes.
Yeah, you gave yourself a chance. That's all you can ask for, being down double digits at halftime. Those comebacks are so hard, especially in Wyoming with no shot clock. I mean, in Utah, it's a little more common because 35 seconds you have to get the ball up, where in Wyoming, they can hold it for as long as they want.
Yeah.
These double-digit leads are really hard to come back from, and all you can really ask for as a team, just give yourself a shot. You can't, if you come in trying to get all 19 back in a single quarter, it's just not going to happen. You just want to try to get it to a point where you, in the fourth quarter, you're playing meaningful basketball.
Yeah, and they definitely did play meaningful basketball on the second day. They played even more meaningful basketball, had a good hold over Thermopolis for most of the game, and Thermopolis outscored them 20-10 in the fourth quarter, and it was a perfect March Madness type of moment. I was live on the call for that. Thermopolis inbound with about 5 seconds left, and they're all the way on the other end of the floor. So I'm like, they have to heave the ball. They got to get 2 quick passes here because 5 seconds is not a lot of time, but it's a good enough time to set up a play for basketball. They heave it down to Andrew Howell, who has had injuries throughout the season, hasn't played much for the Bobcats, and he heaves it from the right over the half-court timeline on the right corner, right next to the scorer's table. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, it's looking decent. All of a sudden, just like that, nothing but net. Doesn't bank, doesn't hit off the rim. At the buzzer, Thermopolis wins and ends the Buffalo season. It was one of those heartbreaking calls.
Yeah,
But at the same point in time, it's one of those moments where this is high school basketball at its finest.
Yeah, absolutely brutal for the Mountain View Buffaloes to lose on a shot like that. But hey, you got to give credit to the Thermopolis Bobcats. They were down. They outscored you by 10 points in the fourth quarter, and they were able to hit that shot. I mean, sometimes a player just hits a shot, and we see it all the time in basketball. And, you know, it's almost storybook for Thermopolis that it was that kid who dealt with injuries all year long to make the game-winning shot.
Yeah, and we're going to go for a quick little break here for the call sign. We'll be right back afterwards.
Life is better in the country. KNYN. Fort Bridger, Evanston, Woodruff. 99.1. The country you want to be in.
Back live after the Legal ID Homefield Advantage, presented by Jake Major at the Bullock Agency of Wyoming and Bear Lake Memorial Hospital. And on the girls' side of the regional bracket, both teams are in state. The Lady Eagles are the 4th seed. They end up losing in the 3rd/4th place game at regionals to the Powell Lady Panthers. And the Lady Buffaloes went all the way to the championship game, but lost to Pinedale. And Pinedale and Mountain View are creating some sort of rivalry on the girls' side because you have so many phenomenal athletes on both sides. For Pinedale, Evelyn Bowers, Gabby Rogers, Erica Wilson. And for the Lady Buffaloes, Addison Hickey, McKinley Covelo, Miley Michaeli, put Kalia Pitts in there as well. So many amazing athletes. The Lady Buffs lost 64-58. Close game. We're up by 8 going in the fourth quarter. And Evelyn Bowers said, it's my time to shine. She ended the game with 34 points.
Yeah, it's not shocking hearing that from her. What was shocking, though, is that you texted the group chat that she only had 2 points after the second quarter.
After the first quarter.
First quarter, excuse me.
She only had 2 points.
2 points. It means she put up 32 of those in the second quarter and beyond, which, you know, you do a great job on a player like that in the first quarter. You're feeling good about yourself. But the reason why they're such a great player is that they can shake off a slow first quarter, and then they can still explode for what they usually explode for, which is 34 points in a regional championship game.
Absolutely. And McKinley Covelo had 30 points for the Lady Buffaloes. Addison Hickey had 15. Just an all-out brawl, an amazing game. Pinedale gets the first seed. Lady Buffaloes get the second seed. Nothing to scoff at all. An amazing season so far for both of those teams. And looking at the girls' 3A state bracket, we'll start out. We'll keep on going with the Bridger Valley here. The Lady Buffaloes play at 9 a.m. on Thursday morning in the Ford Wyoming Center versus number 3 seed out of the East, the Torrington Lady Trailblazers, as the Wyoming Lady Eagles, the 4th seed, have a tough contest.
Yeah, they
right
do.
out of the gate. They face the undefeated Douglas Lady Bobcats at 10:30 a.m. in the Ford Wyoming Center. So Bridger Valley back-to-back on the first day of the state tournament. And Douglas, undefeated in the season, I believe they've only lost 10 games over the last 6 years.
Yeah, they're really good. But if you're the Eagles, you get a chance to make history right off the bat. I mean, either you're going to go out and you're going to play this team that hasn't lost in what seems like forever. And I don't want, this is going to sound, I hope this doesn't sound mean, but you'd have to expect that Douglas is the favorite to not only win that first game, but I'd say win the entire state championship. Because in my opinion, you're the king, you have the crown until someone knocks you off. And, you know, they're undefeated going in as the 1 seed. They have a really good chance to do so as well. But the Eagles got a chance to throw a monkey wrench right into all of what I just said by coming out and pulling off the upset.
And Douglas has won the last 3 straight state championships as well.
Yeah.
They're going for a 4-peat.
That crown's almost cemented on their head.
Yes, literally. And the Lady Buffaloes play Torrington in the first round. Both of some of the top rebounding teams in the 3A region. So it's going to be interesting to see the battle on the boards. But whatever happens, we could see a Bridger Valley matchup in the constellation bracket if Torrington can pull off an upset and Douglas wins, or we'll have a Bridger Valley semifinal if the Lady Eagles could pull off a massive upset.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting seeing them on the same side of the bracket just because, Lyman's going to give Douglas a run. And I imagine if Mountain View wins, they'll play Douglas if Douglas beats Lyman, correct?
Yes. Correct.
So, it is kind of nice that both the Valley teams are right there. You can see them. And wouldn't it be something for, the Bridger Valley, if it was a Bridger Valley battle for its spot in the state championship game?
That would be amazing for a state semi. And a berth to the state championship game. Both towns would show up. Because
absolutely.
That semifinal is at 4:30 p.m. the next day. So both towns would show up and travel down to Casper. And moving on to the boys' side now, Aaron, you're going to be filling in for Elin as the Red Devils take on the Laramie Plainsmen at 1:30 p.m. at Casper College on the first day of the tournament. And then also, you're going to be filling in for the Jackson Bronx as well, and their game's at 9 p.m. at Casper College on the same day.
Yeah, crazy late start. Not exactly the smooth sailing schedule that you have there, Mr. Colasuno, but I'm excited. These are two teams that I've seen a couple of times play. I don't know everything about them. That's why I'm going to start prepping as soon as we get out of this booth to try to learn as much as I can in the next 2 days. But, it's an exciting time. This is an Evanston team that all year, we talked about football season earlier where they made it to the semifinals. All year just kind of feels like they've been doubted quite a bit, where now they have an opportunity to come out, pull off the ultimate upset, take out the Plainsmen. Mm-hmm. And then for Jackson has to be one of the riding favorites. They have so much talent on that team, and it all kind of starts with Seb Brunner, and you move along to a couple of other players, but they have a lot of talent. They are loaded, and they're primed to make a run. We'll see how this all plays out.
And Jackson plays the number 4 seed out of the East, Natrona County. Jackson came in, dominated business down in Green River, won the regional 3A West regional tournament, and Laramie, the number 1 seed out of the East, tough task for the Evanston Red Devils because Laramie has been one of the favorites all year long, and Laramie won their regional as well. And maybe Evanston can pull off some magic here in this matchup.
Yeah, one thing about going in as the 4 seed is you get to play free, fast, and loosely in that first game.
Yes.
Just because there's not a ton of pressure. You're not expected to win any. Most 4 seeds are not expected to win against the 1 seed on the other side. So if you come out, play fast, play loose, play the way they can play, who's to say they can't pull off the upset? They have definitely beaten some really good teams this year. They know what it takes to beat a good team, and they're just going to have to come out, execute a game plan, and play very, very well.
Very true. And that'll wrap up our show today, but we'll go over the broadcast schedule one more time for all y'all out there. So, for the Bridger Valley, Mountain View versus Torrington at 9 a.m. on Thursday inside the Ford Wyoming Center, and then right afterwards at 10:30 a.m., the Lady Eagles take on the Lady Bearcats of Douglas High School on Thursday. And then for the 4A boys, Evanston plays Laramie at 1:30 p.m. inside Casper College on Thursday. Aaron Pauling will be live on the call for that one. And then the late night special, you can say, Jackson versus Natrona County at 9 p.m. inside Casper College. And, of course, after that, depends on who wants to win the most. And the schedule will be based off of that. That will do it for today's episode of Home Field Advantage, sponsored by Jake Major at the Bullock Agency of Wyoming and Bear Lake Memorial Hospital. Anthony Colasuno.
Aaron Poling.
Signing out.